Thank you, Professor, for doing this interview. I appreciate it a lot. So my first question is, what was your experience growing up in school as a deaf person in your PE classes? Did you feel included in those classes, and how so?
Okay, first of all, hello. I appreciate this opportunity to share my story with you all. So I grew up, first I think it's important to understand that I have been to a few different types of schools, and the experience kind of depends on the school I went to. I was mainstreamed in middle school, and I have an example of an experience there in mainstream. So it was a hearing school and I was the deaf person there. And then I did go to a deaf school here in the area. That's the school in Fremont. And the interesting experience growing up in those two different locations, public school, I had interpreters. And I felt I had access. I felt like I was involved in all the activities. I felt like they gave me opportunities to run. The coach there seemed willing, and he was pretty understanding to meet my accommodations. And I appreciated that greatly. But what was even better, the coach at the deaf school himself, he was a signer. So I had direct access to language, which was amazing. So I felt like that was more cool. That was a better experience. And don't get me wrong, I still tried at public school, and I was very involved in several different sports. And it was kind of like which sports I wanted to invest more of my time in at either of those schools. So, but I did feel included, and I felt involved.
That's great. And in those classes, were there any modifications to the physical activities that you did want to do?
One example that I can think of is swimming. The coach at the mainstream school, at first, it didn't really feel like the accommodations could be met, but luckily, in high school, they were finally willing. And that was great, and that made a big difference. It helped me realize how big that difference is, and how that person was willing to meet my accommodations and work with me. And I felt different in different situations, right? I can really be involved in any sports. And honestly, I don't really feel like I need to alter anything other than when I transferred from the hearing school, or when I was at the hearing school, to add visual cues, like timeout. Even if it's universal sign, like that right there, timeout. That's the sign for timeout. Everybody knows that sign, and I can catch that easily. So if people use gestures in my hearing school, I could catch it with my eye, and I would keep my eye on who the important person is to try and figure out what was going on.
Okay, great. And in the past, or even now, are there any physical activities that you've wanted to do but felt like you couldn't?
Honestly, I felt like I could do any of the sports. I didn't feel like my deafness interfered with anything that was going on. I have seen, though, many people who have different abilities, and I have noticed how that impacts their ability to be involved. But I have empathy for that, and I understand their perspective, and it helps me to understand, especially when I was young, that everyone has their own approach. And you just kind of have to tweak the approach a little bit to be successful, and that applies to anybody. And I've used that perspective, I carry that with me through all the schools I've been at.
I love that answer.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And in your previous lecture about deaf communities, you brought up this events that are hosted for deaf athletes, such as the Deaf Olympics. Can you speak about the importance of hosting those events for deaf athletes?
Wow, yes. So to summarize an answer, first of all, I would like to start, the Deaf Olympics are happening in Tokyo, Japan, right now, this month, which is pretty cool. If you have the opportunity to watch some of it, go ahead, I recommend it. But the purpose, from my understanding, is for deaf athletes to thrive, to be fully able in their sport. When any possible barriers come up. I mean, in the standardized world, in that type of environment, these deaf events really make sure that it is fully possible for those folks to participate in that environment. For example, meeting accommodations. One is visual, especially for deaf folks. We are very visual, right? We live in a visual environment. And so they do a lot of things related to that. They also have deaf and hearing audience members there that are watching the events. And for the hearing audience members, they have an opportunity to witness what an actual deaf event looks like. And it's very incredible what they do. And it shows how the impact of communication is so important. People can watch and get used to who's speaking, right, for hearing folks. But if they're hearing folks in the audience of the Deaf Olympics, they get to see how everyone communicates and realize, oh, it's different. You don't need to use only spoken word or only this one action that we've been using forever. So we make it more equitable. That's the goal. That's what we strive for in those types of sports. And in the end, I think that will help all of us realize that we can find common ground. Whether you're hearing, whether you're deaf, whether you're hard of hearing, if you speak a different language, that emphasizes that we can all go ahead together and have similar goals, similar activities, with different approaches to it too.
Thank you so much. And that's like the main essence of what we're learning in my other class that this is for. So that's awesome. And my final question to you, just out of curiosity, what are your current favorite physical activities to do, and how do you feel confident to be able to participate?
Okay, so related to activities, I will be honest, for the past 5 years, I haven't really been very active. I've been deep in graduate school in that world, but I do have a few activities that I frequent and I enjoy. So other than walking around in front of the classroom like you see that I do often, that's part of my exercise. I do really enjoy hiking. I go to various different places, and that's because I like variety. I like to be exposed to new environments. And honestly, my favorite thing to go out and do is to just go out and see environments that I'm in. And I don't like the things to be same. That's why recently this summer, I signed up as a gym member for the first time ever. And honestly, I've only been once. Because I just get over it. It's just routine. It's the same machines. I want variety. I want to go outside and hike and run and be with my dog in different paths and trails, in the mountain biking. I just started doing that, and I'm really excited about it. I'm going to join one mountain bike clinic. Oh, it was very cool. I took a class. It was so cool, and it was fully accessed too, because they signed for this whole class. And I do play pickleball. I enjoy that also. I feel like it's a community-based activity where you can kind of connect with a bunch of different people and challenge each other. And honestly, those last two that I mentioned, I don't get to do them as often as I'd like, unfortunately.
Oh, that's okay. And I can definitely relate to your gym experience, being wanting to do many other things. So I'm great that there's plenty of ways to get your physical activity in. But that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for taking your time again. I really appreciate it.
I'm honored to have this opportunity, and thank you for listening. Bye.